So we're about halfway through the 2025 NFL season. We have a decent sample size under our belts, and I wanted to give you guys the 15 most disappointing players in the NFL so far. This could be for a couple different reasons. It's just maybe relative to your expectations going into the year. Maybe you were a big free agency signing. Maybe this was kind of like a do or die year for where you are on your current team, and you're just falling short of those expectations. And like always, if you agree or disagree with anybody that I bring up as somebody that I think is disappointing, you may not think is disappointing. Let me know why down below. Or maybe there's somebody that I didn't mention today that you think is disappointing. Also, let me know down below. And we're going to start off with Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think this one's a personal one just because I was always high on Trevor Lawrence as an NFL QB. Ever since he was drafted, I thought it was just such an unfortunate situation for him in his rookie year under Urban Meyer, but he turned things around, having the best year of his career still to this day in year number 2 with Doug Peterson in 2022, where he threw for 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, finished 7th in MVP voting, and was a Pro Bowler. And he hasn't been a Pro Bowler since, and I doubt he's being one this year. So far, Trevor Lawrence in the year 2025 has a 5-4 record. He's thrown for about 2,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. We don't really have another excuse for him. He still has his wide receiver 1 going into the year in Brian Thomas. I know that Travis Hunter just recently got hurt, but this is under a new offensive-minded guy in Liam Cohen, and it was all supposed to be put together this year. I just feel like you can't go throughout one Jaguars game without something dumb happening or some drive that ends for just like a reason that doesn't need to happen. It could just be a dumb throwaway, a dumb drop, and some of that comes back on Trevor Lawrence. Some of that can come back on his receivers. Trevor Lawrence is one of the greatest college quarterbacks we have seen this century, and he has not been anything close to that at the NFL level. I don't know if Trevor Lawrence has even been in the top 15 conversation since his sophomore year, and I don't think we have taken any strides this year while he's being paid a decent amount of money going forward. So the first overall pick from the 2021 draft, in my opinion, has been disappointing in 2025. You can let me know if I'm being too harsh on Trevor Lawrence. I just feel like he should be a lot better. He's at a career low completion percentage. Maybe he turns it around in the second half. You know what? I'll just stay on the topic of the Jacksonville Jaguars. We'll get them both out of the way. Brian Thomas Jr. is coming in here as another disappointing player this year. BTJ was arguably the best rookie receiver last year, up there with Malik Neighbors. Looked like an absolute steal for the Jacksonville Jaguars with the 23rd overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft, but a lot of Brian Thomas's elite production last year came with Mac Jones under center when Trevor Lawrence was out for the season, and Brian Thomas had 87 catches, 1,282 yards, 10 touchdowns on 133 targets. This year, BTJ, 30 catches, 420 yards, 60 targets throughout 8 games, so basically half of what he played last year in terms of starts. And he has not had a connection with Trevor Lawrence whatsoever. He didn't play for the Jaguars in week number 10 in their loss against the Houston Texans, and I'm not sure if his connection is going to get any better with Trevor Lawrence when he comes back. He's had some really bad drops this year. He's actually leading the NFL in drops right now with 9 on the year, and he's only played 8 games as well, and I'm not sure if BTJ is going to be better in the second half. It feels like he hears footsteps over the middle of the field and just wants no part of that, and some of those are hospital balls from Trevor Lawrence. I just wish these guys were better in Jacksonville this year. I thought this was the year it changed with Liam Cohen as the main decision maker. Let's stay on the topic of NFL receivers that have been disappointing this year. Calvin Ridley, a former Jacksonville Jaguar, now of the Tennessee Titans, in his second year in Tennessee after getting a very nice contract in free agency 2 years ago from Tennessee, where he was paid $92 million over 4 years, and I doubt he makes it through this year. I do feel like he's going to get cut from the Tennessee Titans at the end of the year. So far in 2025, Calvin Ridley has 16 catches. Yeah, 16 catches throughout 6 games, 290 yards. He doesn't have a single touchdown on the season yet either. He hasn't played since October 12th, where he had 1 catch for 18 yards and got injured against the Las Vegas Raiders. This contract has been an absolute disaster. I was actually pretty high on Calvin Ridley, at least in fantasy, going into the year with a much better quarterback in Cam Ward from Will Levis last year. That has not been the case whatsoever. Calvin Ridley has been one of the more disappointing players in the NFL 100% this season. So the last game that Calvin Ridley played in was against the Raiders, and I'm going to talk about a disappointing Raider. We're going to talk about Gino Smith, who has a 2-7 record this year for the Las Vegas Raiders. You know, their defense only held Denver to 10 points on Thursday night, but Las Vegas just scored 7. They could not score in the second half. I was excited for the Raiders this year. Finally, right? You bring in Pete Carroll. Chip Kelly's the offensive coordinator. Tom Brady is in the ownership group. You trade for Gino Smith, who is a competent NFL quarterback. I wasn't like as high as like he's a top 10 quarterback in the league, but I thought he was still a very serviceable QB and could lead the Raiders to maybe a playoff spot this year. Definitely a wild card spot. Well, he got traded for a third rounder. That pick ended up being Jalen Milroe. And this was the third rounder that they basically got from the Jets in the Devontae Adams trade. And Gino Smith has maybe been the worst quarterback in the NFL this year out of all qualified QBs. Like I said, a 2-7 record, a 66% completion percentage, which is down noticeably from his 70% last year. He has thrown 12 interceptions this year and 11 touchdowns, around 1,844 yards. Now, his offensive line has not done him any favors, but he's second in the NFL in interceptions. Some of those have been really bad this year. They just recently traded away their number one receiver in Jacoby Myers to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm not sure if it's going to get much better for Gino in the second half. I wonder if they're going to end up benching him for Kenny Pickett at one point. So I'm recording this ahead of their Monday night matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles, but I do think that Nate Hobbs has been a little disappointing this year for the Green Bay Packers. Now, I wasn't like super high on Nate Hobbs going into the year. I thought they gave him a decent amount of money in the offseason, 4 years, $48 million coming over from the Las Vegas Raiders. It had $16 million guaranteed, so it's not like the worst contract in the world. But I just don't think that Nate Hobbs has been a great corner in Green Bay. You can make an argument that Carrington Valentine, Keyshawn Nixon, Javon Bullard have been a lot better than Nate Hobbs this year when he's getting paid more money than those guys. He doesn't have a single interception on the year. He hasn't been great in coverage. Hey, maybe he has a really good game tonight against the Philadelphia Eagles and turns it around. But for what the Green Bay Packers paid him in free agency, I'm sure they'd like for him to be a little bit better in the secondary. And I know he's been hurt this year, but I also think Terrion Arnold has been slightly disappointing for the Detroit Lions. Arnold was a first rounder in the 2024 NFL draft. This year, though, he has not been a great coverage corner whatsoever for the Detroit Lions. He's actually graded out the 89th corner out of 109, according to PFF. You definitely trust somebody, a DJ Reed, a Rocky Sin, or maybe an Amik Robertson in that secondary over Terrion Arnold. He does have an interception on the year, but this guy was selected in the first round ahead of Cooper DeJean, who has been a lot better than Arnold this year, as well as Nate Wiggins, who went a couple picks after Arnold. I wonder if Brad Holmes would have liked to have this one back. Now, this one probably just comes back on the pass rush for the Dallas Cowboys, but I think Trayvon Diggs has also been slightly disappointing this year for the Dallas Cowboys, given that Diggs signed a 5-year, $97 million extension with the Dallas Cowboys in July of 2023, and Diggs has also just not been a good corner this year for Dallas. He's been better than Arnold and Nate Hobbs, in my opinion, but it's still not somebody that's getting paid, but not as good as someone that's almost getting paid $20 million a year. Like I said, it could come back down on the pass rush, just not generating any pressure for the quarterback, giving him so much time to throw, which is now making Trayvon Diggs' life a little bit harder. But I do think like Deron Bland, Reddy Stewart, or maybe Kyler Elam have been a little bit better than Diggs this year. I think he's been slightly disappointing because I still want him to be an elite corner. I don't think he's reached those heights this year. All right, I want to knock out all my corners. I have one more for you, and that's Christian Benford of the Buffalo Bills. The former 6th rounder didn't have many expectations going into his rookie year back in 2022, but in 2023 and 2024, Benford was kind of elite for the Buffalo Bills in their secondary and was emerging as their CB1. This year, it's been an absolute disaster. He's been one of the worst coverage corners in the whole NFL this year, not just on this Buffalo Bills team where, yeah, Tre'Davious White and Taron Johnson have also struggled for the Bills in the secondary. They have their own issues over there, but Benford is getting beat left and right and does not look like the elite corner he was over the last 2 years. I know Bills fans are really disappointed. They just got kind of convincingly beat against the Miami Dolphins on Sunday. I'm surprised this team didn't try to add another corner at the deadline. All right, so let's go back to quarterback play. Gino Smith is ranked 2nd in interceptions this year, only behind Tua. Yeah, Tua Tagovailoa, in my opinion, has been very disappointing this year. The former 1st rounder, the former 5th overall pick, is leading the NFL right now with 13 interceptions on the year. He's thrown for 17 touchdowns, 1,952 yards. The Dolphins are 3-7. He has a 68% completion percentage. And yeah, it was a nice win against the Buffalo Bills. I'll definitely give Tua credit in that one. He had a really nice deep ball to Jalen Waddle, although Devon Achane was maybe the MVP of that game. There's just been too many stinkers from Tua this year. They already fired Chris Greer, the GM that drafted Tua all those years ago back in 2020. And I mentioned how bad Trayvon Diggs' contract is. Well, Tua did sign the rookie extension, 4 years, $212 million, $167 million guaranteed. It is a massive contract. If the Dolphins try to move on from him in the offseason, they would take an insane dead cap hit. Maybe not as insane as when the Denver Broncos cut Russell Wilson, but they would definitely feel it, and they may end up just going that way anyway. I'm not sure if they're going to fire Mike McDaniel, but Tua has definitely been one of the more disappointing players in the NFL, given how good he was for Miami in the 2023 season. This one also hates me because I remember making a video last year talking about every team's most surprising player in a good way and just gassing up Chuba Hubbard. I think he's been one of the more disappointing running backs this year, unfortunately, just because we can't really give Chuba an excuse, because you could say it's the offensive line, it's the game script. Well, Rico Dowdle has came in and has actually looked like one of the best running backs, not just on this team, but in the whole NFL. Rico Dowdle is third in the NFL in rushing yards, third. He's started 4 games this year. He's got 788 yards. He's got 5 touchdowns. He's averaging about 80 yards a game when Chuba Hubbard was not doing anything close to that at the start of the year. Chuba ran for about 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns last year. This year, he's at about 300 yards and 1 touchdown, and has lost his job. He's officially gotten benched for Rico Dowdle. They've been moving with him as the RB1 going forward. At least Chuba ended up getting a nice contract extension from the Carolina Panthers a little bit ago. We got a 4-year, $33 million extension, but I do think he's been one of the more disappointing just running backs in the NFL this year, maybe the most disappointing RB in the NFL, given that he's been relatively healthy for the Carolina Panthers. He's only missed 1 game this year, but yeah, losing your job at 26 years old definitely hurts. All right, let's talk about another quarterback. We've talked about Trevor, we've talked about Tua, we've talked about Gino Smith. We're going to talk about Kyler Murray, who hasn't officially lost his job and got benched. He's been hurt now, but they kind of wanted to go in a different direction and see what they could have gone out of Jacoby Brissett. So Brissett has started a decent amount of games for the Cardinals this year. They recently just got blown out and embarrassed against the Seattle Seahawks after beating the Dallas Cowboys. So Kyler Murray's only played about 5 games this year, 2-3 record. He's thrown 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And I don't think that Kyler has been as disappointing as an individual as somebody like Tua or Gino Smith this year. I just think it may be actually the end of his time in Arizona, which I do think is slightly disappointing. He was 2-3 as a starter this year, but those wins were against Carolina and New Orleans. I guess that Carolina win looks a little bit better right now, but then he lost by 1 to Mac Jones and the Niners, lost by 3 to the Seattle Seahawks, and then ended up losing by 1 to the Tennessee Titans. But hey, those losses are a combined 5 points. And now he's on injured reserve, and there's a chance that Kyler Murray is not on this team next year, which is going to be kind of crazy because Kyler signed that big extension with the Cardinals a couple off seasons ago. A lot of people thought he got overpaid at the time. He hasn't really made them feel like it was worth it to give him all that money a couple years ago. I do think the offensive line hasn't been great. Hasn't really had the best receiving core in his career. The offensive coordinator people aren't a big fan of, and Drew Petzing. We'll see if anything changes. We'll see if Kyler plays another game for the Cardinals this year, or maybe that's it. He was the #1 overall pick in the 2019 draft, and this could be the last time we see him in Arizona. So Terry McLaurin wanted a contract extension going into the year. He was threatened to request a trade, maybe hold out. He got that contract extension he wanted, and then he ends up getting hurt. And he also hasn't been great in the games he's played in. So he's only played 4 games this year. He's missed a decent amount of the 2025 Commander season, but the Commanders have to be one of the more disappointing teams in the NFL overall. The team is 3-7. Yeah, 3-7 this year. They just got blown out by the Detroit Lions at home. Terry McLaurin in the 4 games he's played in, 13 catches, 200 yards, and just 1 touchdown. But this one has to be a little disappointing given that they gave him that contract extension, and this whole offense has kind of been a disaster in 2025. The last quarterback I'm going to go with, Justin Fields of the New York Jets. I think this is it for Justin Fields as a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. He looked better in Pittsburgh last year. Throughout his first 6 games, he had a 4-2 record before getting benched for Russell Wilson. I don't know if that was the smart move in hindsight. I do wish the Steelers maybe gave Fields a little bit more of an opportunity, but he saw that, you know what, I want to go to New York. I want to play under Aaron Glenn, where he got a 2-year contract, a nice 2-year contract, like $20 million a year. And this year, he's been maybe the worst quarterback in the NFL. In 8 starts, he's thrown for about 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 1 interception this year. Yeah, he doesn't turn the ball over a lot. He only has 1 interception. Well, he doesn't throw the ball. He takes so many bad sacks, which just is a disaster for the Jets and their offensive game script this year. They traded away Sauce Gardner and Quinton Williams at the deadline because this team is not making the playoffs this year. They are 2-6. They did beat the Browns and the Bengals here in 2025. But yeah, this is a team yet again that's going to be picking in the top 10 because of disappointing quarterback play. It's just kind of been a tale as old as time in New York. It was a big deal when Orlando Brown left the Kansas City Chiefs for the Cincinnati Bengals, and we thought this was a great pickup for the Bengals to protect Joe Burrow's blind side. Orlando Brown has not been a great Cincinnati Bengal, or at least over the last 2 years. He has not been living up to the 4-year, $64 million contract he got from the Bengals a couple years ago in the 2023 offseason. Orlando Brown this year has been graded out as the 51st offensive tackle out of 76 according to PFF, and he's in year 3 of this deal right now. I'm not even sure if he's going to be on this team next year, or they may just cut him in the offseason. And the last player we're going to go with is a wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns, Jerry Judy. Jerry Judy finally had like a breakout year last year with Jameis Winston. He had 90 catches, about 1,200 yards, 145 targets on the season as well. He was averaging about 72 yards per game. This year, that's kind of dropped in half. He's basically averaging 37 yards per game. He's got 1 touchdown on the year, 66 targets across 9 games. I thought Jerry Judy was actually hurt at one point. No, he's just been a non-factor for the Cleveland Browns. 335 yards on 28 receptions across 9 games. I know Dylan Gabriel has not been a great quarterback. Flacco wasn't anything when he was in Cleveland either. But for somebody that was a first-round pick that got a nice contract extension for basically the little production he has shown in his career and having a breakout year last year, I do wish Jerry Judy was a little bit better in 2025. So that is going to be it for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, I would appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Let me know what you guys think about my 15 most disappointing players down below. Do you think there's somebody that I didn't mention that you think I should have? Let me know down below and let me know why. Subscribe for more content like this. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.